Sometimes we have an illusion that in society we are trying to solve problems. That because we are keeping ourselves busy, society is designed in a way where everyone is working for themselves, kind of. Everyone's competing against each other, and we don't really have a holistical approach to things. And sometimes we are so busy doing our work that we don't even have the courage or the time to ask ourselves the question, are we doing something that is contributing to the whole? And if the goal of society is to create well-being for people and sustainability, then we are not really doing a good job. And it looks all the time like we are trying to solve some of the issues that are happening in society, some of the chaos that is happening regarding pollution, regarding deprivation, and I mean, look at the city, for example. It is very sporadic how it is designed, and when we are faced with a problem, we are often just trying to solve this part of the problem that is occurring, instead of looking at the whole in a more holistical way, and trying to figure out strategically how could we design one from the bottom and up. So society is actually not really interested in solving problems, and the reason for this is because society is dependent on problems to be there, because with problems comes work, with problems comes a potential of earning money. And our society is measuring the success or how well it's doing by GDP, or how much money is being spent back into the system. And the more like issues and administration and complexity we have in society, the more there's more problems there's to solve, more administration there's to do, the more people we need to have working. And we want people working in society because it creates stability, and it creates this, because in our society, in our economical model, we are dependent on cyclical consumption and people working to be able to spend money back in the system. So let me give you a couple examples why I think society is not designed in a way, and it's even thriving on problems, and is not really trying to solve anything on a root level. And why is it also important to solve something on a deeper level? Because it is far more efficient to solve it on a deeper level, so you don't need to occupy so much energy with it. But if you're all the time making patches, it's not really efficient, and you're running around in circles. But society is thriving on this, and it's a very bold statement, very provocative statement, controversial statement to make. But this is what is happening. And let me try to find you some evidence for this. So let's look at, for example, let's take the bottled water industry first, and I would give you a couple of examples of different industries. Let's say the bottled water industry. They are thriving on water being polluted, and you can say it is technically much more efficient to completely resolve this, have clean water in the city. Imagine you had a city with available, easy to access water in the city. That would be far more technically efficient. Less resources would need to be utilized, less resources would need to be spent, less work power would need to be done to create such a system. Maybe you would need to invest some work in the beginning, but then with time, if you were thinking a little bit long term, you would spend far less resources on just resolving the problem completely. But the bottled water industry is not interested in resolving that problem, and society as a whole is also not interested in resolving that problem, because the bottle industry is thriving on the water being polluted. And imagine all the waste that is created from this. You need to create those plastic bottles that are being produced. Energy is lost in the production. The plastic bottles contribute to the waste. People need to work in the factory to produce those bottles. Bottles need to be transported, put on the shelves, need to be sold. All this administration, if you look at it as a whole, it's a lot of energy and resource and management that is around this. And as a society, that is good, because you want people working, you want people to spend money on something, but there would be no money earned if water was just easily available everywhere. Yes, so you can see that this industry, if we would solve this problem, it would mean that billions of dollars would be lost, and thousands of jobs would be lost. And that would not be good for the company itself, of course, the company producing those bottles, but also not good for the society, because society is dependent on this circular consumption. And so as a country, we don't want that actually to resolve that, because that would mean, if you were looking at GDP, that it would be negative. People lose their job and we lose money. So you can see as the incentive is simply not there, and not from the people that are working there, not from the company itself, and not from society itself. This incentive is just simply not there to resolve the problem completely. This is number one. So this is one industry as an example. But you can imagine that if we take, for example, the medical industry, they are investing a lot of money on research on how to solve cancer, how to solve different illnesses, depression, vaccines, and all those stuff. But if you look at, for example, depression, we know how you create a society that is more happy, and where we can today provide food for everyone. It's very obvious. And why do we have a society where we are not trying to solve deeper things? Again, it's the same thing. Like the medical industry, remember, it's a company. They want to earn money. If you look at it as an organism, they don't want to destroy themselves. So everyone going to work unconsciously, they don't want to find a cure for cancer. Unconsciously, they don't want to, even if they're good people. Like the whole, like thousands of people will be lost. Will stop working, and maybe even billions of money, billions will be lost if this industry will be completely resolved. So also look at it. If you don't believe the thing with the cancer thing, look at it from a different perspective. What about depression? Like, why are we subscribing pills to people that we continuously need to subscribe them to them to like kind of function in society? Why are we not trying to figure out what is the cause of this depression? How can we create a society that's more happy and more easygoing? And why is there so much stress in society? Why is it so meaningless? Because depression is going more and more up. And well, we know today, for example, we have a lot of statistics that is backing up by particular things that are helping in keeping a society happy and so on. And we know what is the different things that are influencing how much deprivation is in society, how much suffering is in society. So, for example, like a lot of some things are very easy to understand. Like, for example, food. We know food has a lot of influences on how you perceive things, your happiness, how your mind functions, and as a society, why are we producing foods that have a lot of chemicals in them? Why do we even allow that? Well, it's up to the individual to filter and understand and know which foods are healthy and which ones are not. Why isn't it the responsibility of the society to know which foods are healthy? For example, so food is one thing. Yes, we could improve the quality of the food in society, and that would have a massive impact on people's lives already. We could also reduce the stress. What creates stress, for example? Well, the dependency of a job creates stress. If you are unemployed, it creates stress. If you have a job and you're afraid of losing it, it creates stress. The thing that you need to earn money each month to provide for your basic needs creates stress. Marketing and branding and commercials pushing values on you or showing you that somebody else is better than you creates stress. This endless hierarchy in society creates stress. When you're comparing yourself with somebody who's doing better than you, watching him on Instagram creates stress, yes? I'm not saying all stress is bad, but I'm saying there's a lot of unnecessary stress in society, and this creates a lot of pressure, and it creates a lot of, if you see something that somebody else has and you don't have it, you become unhappy if you cannot get it. It's obvious. if you're surrounded by people that have a low vibration or are angry or manipulative, it also affects you. If you're surrounded by people that have that are not positive because they are pushed by society, it also affects you. So your family, your friends affects you. So so we know in society, for example, we could reduce the hierarchy, so there would be less distance between rich and poor, and this would reduce stress. We could create security, so people were not that dependent on having a job to provide for the basic needs. Again, it would reduce stress. We could remove or minimize the amount of influences commercial has. We could reduce that, and again, that will minimize stress. We could produce foods that are not cheap, and remove that incentive system to produce cheap foods. And again, it would reduce stress, and it would create a much more healthier society and a happy society. But we don't do this because the incentive system is just not there. Society is designed in a way where this kind of behavior is being rewarded even. So it's, if you look deeper, it is a structural problem. If we look at some of the arguments we hear out there, it's up to the consumer, it's up to the individual to influence society in a way. It's because the consumers are not buying the right things. It's because consumers are not aware. Well, again, back to the thing of moving responsibility over to the individual. We move a lot of responsibility over to the individual as a society, and the politicians tell you that this is this and this and that. But in actuality, it is a way of justifying the problems that are existing. It is a way of moving attention away from the actual problem. So a lot of confusion is created. So we give the individual responsibility, and how can we demand that beside a normal job, let's say 8 hours he's spending on a job, and even 10 hours because he has transportation back and forth, and now that he is going to go home, find the right information about what to eat, have the resourcefulness and the awareness to actually to make that choice. But even if you look at the information, right, the most information out there is very confusing, because what do you know? I mean, which information can you trust? You're Googling something about what to eat, and I mean, who can you trust? Because you're getting the same information, you have proof about it. Let's say you have proof that meat is healthy, then you have proof that meat is unhealthy. You have proof that sprouts are healthy, then on the other hand, you have proof that sprouts are unhealthy. I mean, who can you trust here? So it's very difficult. And how many times? I mean, ask yourself this question: how many times have you not been wrong about you were convinced that this food is healthy, and then a half year passes, and now you hear something else, and now you completely change your strategy because now you understand it's not healthy. Do you get it? How much waste there is there? Why is it up to the individual to know those things? Why do we all need to be experts in what to eat? Why do we all need to be experts? Why do we need to fight society? Why is society not there to strengthen a behavior that it wants in us? So often we have an illusion that a lot is done to resolve society's problems, but we are only like managing the symptoms and creating patches, not really looking deeper on why things are happening, not addressing the root problems. It is a structural problem, and our economical model is the reason for all those problems. It is outdated. It's because of technological advancements that has happened, and it's not because technology is the problem. It is how we use technology. Are we using technology to push, reward, and manipulate with people and are we using technology to earn money? And regardless if that has a consequence on the environment, regardless if that is efficient in terms of technical efficiency, regardless if that is creating deprivation, we have only this measurement, like money. Like, how much money are we earning in society? I can give you an example. Like, if people are becoming more sick, in a country, GDP goes up because they're buying more medicine. Think about that. But what if we were using technology to create welfare and create sustainability? And we would use those two parameters as measurement and not money that is completely detached from the physical realm, but instead we were looking at technical efficiency, arriving at our decision making, not asking some politician about where the building should be built. Or if you don't think it's enough evidence to support what I'm saying, I mean, look at society. The problems are growing and growing and growing. And it looks like it's becoming more and more complicated. Pollution, deprivation, unhappiness, more control and more police. Why do we need more control and police if the system were working? Like, ask yourself this question. Our economical model is outdated, and it is determining how everything, the whole thing is interacting between each other. It determines, when you get up in the morning, if you need to go to work. It determines the incentive systems, the framework we operate in. This is not only for the individual, but it's also regarding the company and as well as the country. Everyone is kind of have this framework where they can operate in. And it's not because the companies are bad that they're polluting. It's not because the people are greedy that they are competitive or something like this by nature. It's because this kind of behavior is incentivized, and this kind of behavior is promoted and even rewarded. Society, our economical model, is thriving on problems. It likes problems. It doesn't like actually to resolve anything, but it wants the problem to exist, because with the problem comes an opportunity to earn money, to create jobs. I guess that is it. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something, and it's a very controversial subject, and if you listened so far, thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.